time for a break. Grab a coffee, get comfy, and catch up with old friends. Join us for an easy chat on all the biggest news stories of the day on ICRT Breakdown, a bilingual 2030 policy program brought to you in cooperation with the National Development Council.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to another edition of ICRT's Breakdown, your favorite podcast, where we talk about interesting and important topics, helping you understand them better, and at the same time, to give you a better feel for throwing some informative English into your daily conversations. As always, ICRT Breakdown is hosted by your two favorite ICRT personalities. I'm right in saying that, aren't I, Pat?
Okay. Yes.
And by that, yours truly, I'm Tim And joining me, as always, is my favorite evening news anchor,
Hi.
Paz Bueno.
Oh, yes. Hi, everyone.
And Paz, like normal, I think you've brought a very interesting guest to join us today. Is that correct?
Yes, joining us today is Dr. Kailin Wang, Kailin.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice meeting you.
So Dr. Wang is an organizational psychologist who first introduced the Myers-Briggs type indicator, or as many people might know it, the MBTI, to Taiwan. She is a master level counselor with the highest recognition from the MBTI community in the United States and in Taiwan as well.
Wow.
So actually for today, we're going to be talking about MBTI and how we can use the Myers-Briggs personality test to determine what kind of careers are suitable for you based on your personality type.
Maybe to start things off, we should start out from the basics. And maybe, Kailin, you can tell us a little bit about your work and maybe also how did you bring the MBTI over here to Taiwan too?
My passion about MBTI started with my previous career when I was working in the high-tech industry. I started my career as a software engineer. I was an engineer for almost 10 years.
Wow.
Write coding. And it's a long story, but I transitioned my career multiple times in the industry. And in my last position in the industry, it was a management job where I started learning about MBTI, this tool as a tool for management, to learn about different types in the workplace. I was fascinated by the fact, and I did see that in my observation, that people can be motivated very differently, because in that job position, I had to motivate different engineers to help them advance their careers. And I discovered that the same thing that works for this person doesn't work for someone else. So that's how I started becoming very interested in MBTI. So that's how it started. And then I transitioned, and then I took a break of my career because I was having my baby, and then I figured out that I am more passionate in helping people to develop. So I decided to advance my knowledge and practice this tool, and I went back to school and got the PhD degree in psychology. Since then, I have been practicing. Right now, it's been over 10 years. And so now I've been working as an organizational psychologist, consultant, and career coach. MBTI is one of the tools that I use a lot to help people understanding themselves and for better teamwork in the workplace.
So you were a coder before, and then because you entered the management level, and so you decided you wanted to help the people that you were working with, and so you wanted to learn more about their working styles， 就是想要更多了解他们的工作的方式或者他们的沟通方式，所以这样子才接触到 MBTI。
The most important thing is I want to know how people get motivated, because in organizations, in the workplace, being motivated is very important, so they can perform better. Yeah.
How did you bring this then to Taiwan?
Yeah, actually it was 2012. Yeah. I think that's the year I published my first book in MBTI in Taiwan. But it's about like 12 years ago. At that time, not many people in Taiwan heard about MBTI. Almost none. So I did some workshops. I went to give some talks. But people just, at that time, I think, even though Myers-Briggs has been quite popular and common in the United States for decades, but in Asia, it's not that commonly known. But so I think the first few years, the book was selling, but not very well.
Okay.
Yeah. But because of my passion about this tool, I think it's a very convenient and useful tool for people to quickly understand why this person or that person doesn't communicate with me, because they might have different way of thinking and decision making. I think it's a great tool to help people communicate better. That's my original, yeah. 我在2012年的时候出了我第一本关于 MBTI 的书，在台湾。因为我自己本身很喜欢这个工具，而且我觉得这个工具真的可以给大家带来很多的好处。但是很可惜在就是有一些人知道了接触了，但是还是大部分的人还是不知道。对，好像是到最近这几年台湾才红起来。
对，好像最近不管有认识新朋友的时候，通常 like what's your star sign? what's your MBTI? 它就变成是一个还蛮普遍的一个问题了。现在
I've noticed it a lot recently, like especially on Instagram, like part of people's profile these days.
Oh yeah.
At first, when I started seeing like those 4 letters, I'm like, what is that? What is that about? And so it really took me by surprise. It's really become popular these days, especially with the young people.
而且现在你这样讲，就是你是 I 人还是你是 E 人 ？Like it's a very common thing that people ask about.
Okay.
Yeah.
Don't ask me that. Okay.
Okay, so because it's summer now, so a lot of students are graduating from university, getting ready to move on
move on in life.
Yeah, they're moving on in life. They're achieving the next milestone, and they're starting to look for jobs. So today we've invited you to come and talk to us about what role MBTI can play in looking for a job or in job hunting. So how these personality traits can influence career choices and overall job satisfaction, especially now that we're in the graduation season. So let's start with the first question.
And I think the first question probably is the most basic question, even more basic than the first question I asked, which is, what in the world is MBTI?
So MBTI stands for Myers-Briggs Type Indicator. So it's indicator for different personality type. And Myers-Briggs is just the last names of the creator of this tool, which is mother and daughter. I think most people know that MBTI, usually if you go, you do a test, you'll get 4 letters. So the indicators, it has 4 indicators. And each indicator has 2, it's a dichotomy, meaning it has 2 choices of preferences. Okay, it's like your right hand and left hand. So the first dimension, the first indicator is the energy of either extroversion or introversion. It means you feel more energetic when you are with people or you are alone, being alone. Okay, and the first indicator, meaning how you absorb or understand information. The dichotomy includes either sensing or intuition. Some people, they prefer to gather very tangible information, very solid data, something I can see, I can touch, okay, or numbers. But some people, they are more, they tend to extend the information to abstract level. They like to imagine and to extend the information to a more conceptual level, more abstract, so they can quickly infer from the information. So that's the second difference. And the third indicator is how you make decisions. You make decisions based on reasons or feelings. So it's either thinking or feeling. So it's T or F, right? So for thinking type people, they look at things, if this makes sense. Or for feeling type people, they value people's feeling and people's values when they make decisions. They always put people first when they make decisions. And the last indicator is either judging or perceiving, which means when you are about to take actions to finish something, or you have something to finish or to respond to the request from the environment. You are very planful. You will plan and be goal-oriented, or you tend to just wait and see and just go with the flow to see what the environment changes will bring you, and you will just make spontaneous actions at that moment. These are the 4 very different indicators, to put people into different.
So there are 4 different spectrums, 有4个不，那就是有分 extroversion and introversion. It's also sensing and intuition.
那 sensing 的人呢，他们喜欢是很实际的资讯。那 intuition 的人是比较直觉，他们会很快的把资讯extend 扩展到他们的抽象的、想象的，对。
然后再来就是 thinking 跟 feeling， 就是思考跟感觉。如果你是一个很需要，可能如果你需要数据，或者是你有一个资料，你就必须去思考它，或者是你是去看这个决定会怎么judging or perceiving， right？ 总共有4个不一样的字，那每个字它就代表一个不一样的一个这个人的个性的一个。
我们说 preference， 我们喜欢说 preference， 因为就像你的左手跟右手。When I say you are a thinking person, doesn't mean you don't have feelings. Okay, thinking ability 也有 feeling. Okay, 只是说 indicators. When I say you are extroverted, 那也是一个 preference.
Right.
Even for extroverted people, you still need to be alone sometime. So it's just a preference and the percentage. Which one is higher? For this topic, I actually have my own experience. I think people's personality, they will change, across the lifespan. But I won't say it's a change. It's a development. So when I say development, is I believe that your core, who you are, what kind of preferences you were born with. Like I was born as a feeling type of people. I don't think that will change. But it's when I become more mature, I learn to know to switch to my rational side, to use that function when it's needed, when it's more appropriate.
OK， 所以其实可能每个人也不是说也是一个变化，只是说是一个发展。
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So how can understanding our MBTI type help us in looking for a job?
Yeah. For example, like extroverted people, they feel more comfortable to deal with people, right? And they have more energy to deal with people. So for extroverted people, they naturally will find jobs and they will be happier and more satisfied to be able to hang around with people. But for introverted people, it's the opposite, right? So that's just a very simple example. For the second indicator for the sensing, the difference between sensing and intuition. For example, sensing type of people, they prefer some jobs that they can be more hands-on and that's more practical. Okay. But for intuitive people, they want something that's more creative, use their brain and to use their imagination. Yeah, something like that. So knowing your preference, if you choose a job that fits your preference, you just feel that the job is much easier for you. You don't feel drained that easily because you don't need that much energy to force yourself to use your unpreferred function. Yeah.
OK， 所以比如说 E 人跟 I 人之间的话，当然 E 人可能会比较适合在跟可以跟别人接触到的一些工作。那 I 人的话呢，可能就是如果可以自己工作的话，他比较容易可以专心嘛。那像是你刚刚有讲到那个 sensing 跟 intuition，so sensing 的话就是可能手需要摸到东西，需要感触到，就是他手里在做的一些事情。那 intuition 的话，可能他的一些创造力，对，用他的创意来去工作这样子。所以其实 MBTI 可以告诉我们可能比较适合在什么样子的工作环境，或者是适合跟在什么样的一个职场来工作。
So just moving on, I'm just curious about some of the misconceptions that people may have about MBTI. At the same time, I have my own little reservations. And for example, a lot of the tests I've seen, they're like self-tests. And I think sometimes people can be some of the worst judges of themselves. And also sometimes some of the questions, I just started taking one of the tests the other day, I didn't complete it. And at times, some of the questions can be a little bit maybe too vague or maybe not too, it's hard to say, are you A or B? It's not always such a simple choice. And at the same time, I've seen quite a few people who they treat this almost like a zodiac in that, oh, I'm Capricorn, so that means I'm this way. And I think nothing is so absolute in life. And I think we need to, maybe how we apply a tool like this is very important. it's only a reference and not really a steadfast rule. And so maybe that's one of the other misconceptions people have. Maybe I'm just guessing, but I don't know. What do you feel?
I think you nailed it. That's a very important question. And I'm trying to be an advocate. 我想要让大家知道说 MBTI 它的 framework, this framework is good, but I don't like using tests. Okay, because like what you just mentioned, tests can be very misleading, especially its self-evaluation. A lot of people, they probably are not very aware of their true selves. So they have even some confusion or misconception about themselves. I actually don't use tests for my consultation work when I help people.
So if you don't use tests, how then do you determine what people are?
I talk to them.
Oh, that's a very basic thing to do.
Well, no, but it requires professional skills because it's more like a therapy or counseling sessions. I ask some questions and I can determine by the way they answer my questions. I don't trust any tests, even including the official. They have the official test that you need to pay. I used to use that official test a long time ago, but even with that official test, I still see the wrong results. So that's why I dropped using test.
So in other words, if we really want to figure out what our MBTI is, it's probably best that we do refer to a professional like you and maybe realize that this is just a reference point for us to look at life and to judge ourselves. But it's not written in stone that we are all of those things or maybe not some of those things, whatever.
Yeah. Most people who got the result from the online test or just by looking at the descriptions and they determine which type they are, I would say like most of that the answer is not correct because I have a lot of people that come to me and他们说凯琳老师我是什么什么 type 什么的，然后 after I did the analysis, 90% it's totally wrong. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's the first misconception is about the test. And the second thing is I don't like people to use MBTI, your type, as an excuse, saying because I'm a feeling type. So this is how I feel. So
Right.
don't talk about me like, oh, okay, you need to be logical, you blah, blah, blah. So a lot of people are using this to defend themselves and they refuse to learn or to grow. And I'm very against that idea because MBTI, this tool, actually, the original theory is from Carl Jung, the psychologist. Yeah. Yes. And his theory, his model, he believes that people actually develop across the lifespan. You need to learn, you need to grow. And especially when you grow older, especially when you are approaching midlife, your shadow, meaning your opposite functions, will come out. And that's the moment, that's the time you have to face those things that you were not good at. Yeah. So actually, MBTI is not an excuse. The type is not an excuse for you to defend yourself. I encourage people, once you know your type, for example, if I'm a feeling type, so I encourage people to maximize the usage of what you're good at. You are a feeling type, so you naturally know how to 去关心别人，去看到别人的需要，然后你可以做很好这样的事情。Just know, okay, you are good at this, so you can do more, okay, and be good at it. But also, what you just said, you need to know that sometimes I have my blind spots or my weakness or my shortage. So I need to learn and modify or switch when right now it's not the moment for me to be too emotional. So you need to know when to use which function.
So the two misconceptions of the MBTI type 是这样子的一个人，我没有要去改变，或者是没有要去发展我自己所以老师可以再稍微的带过一下吗？
好，所以一般人对 MBTI 的一种误用或者是误解，第一个我觉得最大就是在网络上随便做测验，然后得到了那个字母之后就觉得我就是什么什么 ESFP， 我是 NTJ。那第一个呢，是因为这种 自我测验，因为是你自我评量去回答问题，你可能对自己都不是非常的认识，而且你可能在不同的环境，你刚好最近碰到了什么事情，你可能其实是非常 against， 就是说不符合当初 MBTI 它的这个理起源。那个心理学家荣格他认为人的一生是都要一直不停的发展成长的。那你年纪越来越大，其实你的那些你不擅长的，你的阴影的部分 awareness 要自我觉察。
Normally, I would say this is my favorite part of the show because we're moving into the cat's meow and the pet peeve. But I think this whole conversation has been pretty good.
Yeah.
I know I've learned a lot. And I'll be honest, I entered the conversation somewhat being a cynic. I needed to be convinced.
That.
And I think you've done a good job of convincing me. And I think you've convinced me just by the fact that you acknowledged what I felt too, is that sometimes people are using this as an excuse.
Yeah.
And we can't use it as an excuse. We have to be honest about who we are and understand how then to better use our talents, good or bad, to work to be a better person. So thank you very much for that invaluable lesson.
Yes.
Anyways, we're still going to do our pet peeve or our cat's meow.
Yes.
And so a pet peeve is something we really don't like, maybe an English term or an expression, and a cat's meow is something we really like. And so I think I never knew how to define what I'm presenting. Did I pet?
Do you like it or do you like it?
I kind of like both. But one is what I just said, a devil's advocate. And so that's always when you take the opposite position of what people are talking about. But it's always a good tool to find out what are the strengths and weaknesses and what the other person is saying. And it's not that you want to be bad or mean to them. You just want to find out, okay, what exactly are they saying? So I was a little bit of a devil's advocate today. I hope you don't mind. Thank you very much. But I think my kind of cat's meow today is cray.
Cray.
Cray, like in crazy.
Cray.
Today, many young people don't think, hey, that's cray. And the first time I heard it, cray, what is cray? But it's just crazy.
I think about crayfish immediately.
Oh.
C-R-A-Y, cray. It's just what a lot of the young people today, when they want to say it's crazy, it's cray.
Yeah.
So luckily, this conversation today was not cray.
Yeah.
It was fantastic.
Awesome.
And Paz, what's your phrase today?
So my phrase is actually it's a phrase that I often use, especially when I'm describing myself. It's
fantastic, wonderful, amazing.
It's the phrase before I proceed any adjectives that I want to describe myself with is I like to think myself as a. So it's just this phrase. I like to think myself as a feeling person. I like to think myself as an introverted person, or I like to think myself as a perceiving person, for example.
Okay.
So I like this phrase in particular because I don't know how other people might perceive me, but I myself, I like to think of myself in this way. So this is a person this personality type or this adjective or this phrase is how I would like other people to see me or how I would like to see myself develop into the future. So I like to see myself as a, and then what I fill in the blank for this statement.
Okay, I never knew that was a phrase before, but okay, I'm learning.
Since I often say it, so for me, it's a phrase.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool.
Okay.
Yes. What about you, Dr. Wang? What are any phrase or word that you feel?
A word I would pick.
Yes.
My cat's meow is innate.
Innate.
Oh,
something you were born with.
Right.
Because as a psychologist, as a professional that helps people to find out what they're good at, I like to see people when they know that, okay, this is what I'm born with, the innate. I try to help them to find their innate ability, their strength. Yes.
Wow.
Well, yeah. I guess I better take this test and find out what my innate skills are.
Yeah. Remember, take one that has a lot
late in life. I'll figure that out. Okay?
Yes. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Kailin Wang. So Dr. Kailin Wang, she is a consultant. She is a psychologist, and she is a person that if you ever need help with finding out your personality type or finding what the right career might be.
She's the person to call.
She's the person to call.
Exactly.
Right. Yes.
Thank you very much. And before we depart for today, we need to remind our listeners to thank you very much for listening to the ICRT Breakdown.
Yes.
Part of our NDC podcast library. Oh, okay.
Brought to you by the National Development Council's Bilingual 2030.
2030, right. We'll get that straight one of these days.
Yes.
But anyways, thank you, Dr. Wang. Thank you, Paz. I'm Tim Berge.
Thank you
and
for
we'll
having
see you.
me.
That's right. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.
Breaking the ice, breaking the mold, breaking down the news. You've been listening to ICRT Breakdown, a bilingual 2030 policy program brought to you in association with the National Development Council.